Hello and welcome to the Idaho Commission for Libraries Info to Go session for March. Today we're going to talk about Idaho's Talking Book Service with Sue Walker. My name is Gina Persicini. I'll be your host. I'll be settling into the background while Sue takes over. As y'all get settled, this is a great opportunity to use the chat to enter any question or one question you have about TBS. So you can go ahead and do that now, and I'm going to turn the event over to Sue Walker. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Gina, and thank you everybody for attending. It's so great to be able to spread the word about the Talking Book Service. Sometimes we say that it is the best kept secret in the state of Idaho, and our motto is never stop reading. And so we're very excited every opportunity we have to go ahead and share with folks about the Talking Book Service. If you would make sure to put any questions you have in chat, and I'll give you a heads up, there will be a quiz at the end of this presentation, so make sure you pay good attention. And you can either chat or you can raise your hand. There's just a couple people here, so we can certainly communicate orally. It's not working.
You're right there, it's not working. There we go. Okay, thank you.
Well, as I said, never stop reading is our motto, but as many as 3% of Idaho residents are unable to read because of some sort of a physical disability. And that comes up to almost 45,000 Idahoans. And if you have an issue with reading standard print, it's often very difficult to go ahead and find appropriate reading materials. I don't know.
You might need to click down below. Down. See the arrows down
Here? Okay, so the Talking Book Service is a free statewide program, and it contains popular reading materials, materials that you would find in your local public library, and they come in several different languages and several different formats. As you can see, we have got about 85,000 titles that are available in audiobook format. In addition, there's 25,000 Braille titles. And then there is BARD, which is the online database where you can go ahead and download more than 100,000 digital books and 16,000 Braille books. So there should be something for everybody. The materials, The materials are available in all sorts of formats, and the National Library Services Collection Development Policy goes ahead and selects the materials that are primarily bestsellers. As you can see, subjects range from astronomy to zoology, and there's about 2,500 new titles added each year to the collection. In addition, the National Library Service in the last few years has begun contracting with commercial audiobook producers. And this allows bestsellers to be produced and made available to the TBS users even more quickly than in the past. And then in addition to the materials that we get from the National Library Service in Washington, D.C., books and magazines about Idaho and the Pacific Northwest are recorded in 2 recording studios here at ICFL. And we record about 50 books each year, and also we record 6 magazines that are specifically about Idaho. So this is all done by volunteers. In addition to being able to physically circulate materials, there is also an online database known as BARD, and it allows registered TBS users to download books and magazines 24/7. And as I said, currently we've got more than 100,000 total titles that can be downloaded. So another nice thing about BARD is as the users download their titles, there is no circulation date. So they can keep those titles as long as they want. The regular circulation date for physical copies that we send to users is 4 weeks. So that's another reason why BARD is very popular with people. In addition to BARD, there is also an online catalog that folks can use that is available through our website, and they can go there, they can search to see what titles we actually have. They can go ahead and request that we send those titles to them, or they can also link directly to BARD where they can download those materials. So in addition to our collections, the Talking Book Services users receive all these things. They are loaned books, magazines, and an audio player. The audio player they receive when they first register for the service, and then they can keep it for as long as they're actually using the service. That doesn't go back and forth through the mail. They also get free access to BARD and to the OPAC. All materials are mailed to them free postage for the blind and physically handicapped through the mail, which means they receive the book. When they're done with it, they just turn the mailing label over and it is sent back to us free postage. And then also they can go ahead and receive help at any time. They can call here toll-free during our regular business hours, which are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And we can help them if they're having problems using the service, if they're having a problem with their player, if they're having issues using BARD, or if they just need reader's advisory. They want to know specifically, how to go ahead, what next titles, what other authors, what genres they might like. We have 4 staff here who work specifically with our users. Also, they can get Braille materials. We contract with the state of Utah to send Braille materials to our users. Being so geographically close to Utah is helpful because they can then go ahead and get their materials a little faster. A lot of people are uncertain who qualifies for it. And that's because for a number of years, the Talking Book Service has been known as the Library for the Blind. And although it originally started out that way, it has expanded over the years so that anybody who is legally blind, who is visually unable to read standard print without aids other than glasses, who is physically unable to hold a book or turn the pages, and is unable to read due to a brain condition. And the physically unable condition can be something such as a stroke, Parkinson's disease, and any of these disabilities can be permanent or temporary. So if you've broken your arm while it's healing and you can't hold a book, you're eligible for the service. Now, quite often people have questions about the what is a brain condition that would make somebody eligible for this service. Now, this is a condition that has been defined specifically, and it needs to be a condition which affects the brain's ability to process information. So, for example, somebody who's had a stroke, their eyes still function properly, but their brain scrambles the input so that they cannot read. Examples, in addition to stroke victims, can be brain injuries and some forms of dyslexia. So even students who have dyslexia may be eligible for this program. However, if they do have dyslexia, it does need to be certified by a medical professional. Well, we really need help to go ahead and spread the word about the Talking Book Service. As I said earlier, it is one of our best kept secrets in the state, and we are here in Boise, and that limits our ability to go ahead and contact with people all throughout the state. So we really are hoping that library folks will be able to help us promote it. There's several reasons why we go to libraries. First of all, you know your communities. You see people come and go. You probably do outreach to senior centers, perhaps nursing homes, and you see people and you know when they may be eligible for the Talking Book Service. Secondly, your users trust you. It's sometimes difficult for people to go ahead when they run across us at a health fair or hear about us to realize that we really are a free up and up service. And if you can go ahead and communicate that to them, they're much more likely to believe it and to say, okay, this is a service that I want to at least try out. We can go ahead and supply to you posters, brochures, application packets, even a player and a book that you can use to demo in your library. And all these materials can be obtained by requesting them online. The biggest way that you can go ahead and help is to go ahead and help register people. There again, we can send you application packets. And also you can download them from this website. It is a 4-page application, but don't let it go ahead and get you too overwhelmed. The first page is just basic demographic information, contact information about the user. The second page is what's known as a certification page, where you actually certify that the user is eligible for the service. And then the third and fourth pages are the pages where you actually select the type of service for the user and also do a profile of their reading interests so that we know what sorts of materials to send to them. As a library staff member, you can certify anybody who is legally blind, is visually impaired, or physically impaired. However, if they are reading disabled, for example, they say they have dyslexia, that must be certified by a medical doctor. Then when you're done with the application, you can just either send it to us as an attachment, fax it to us, or you can mail the application to us and just stick it in an envelope, and where postage would go, write free postage for the blind, and we will get it. I wanted to talk a little bit more about BARD and how you can be helpful with individuals who want to use BARD. To use BARD, an individual must have high-speed internet access. They must have a computer, of course, and they have to be familiar with manipulating files. They download them, they extract files. Now, as you know, sometimes in our communities, internet access, the best place for it is at the local library, which means it's a great opportunity for libraries to be familiar with how to do that and then go ahead and help folks as they need it. To go ahead and access BARD, a user has to be registered with a Talking Book Service, and then there's a separate application, online application that they complete, basically telling us that they're using the Talking Book Service and they now want to use BARD. The library, as I said, is the perfect place to use to demo BARD, and libraries can actually go ahead and get a demo account, and it's just an institutional application. You do need to already be a TBS registered library, and all the public libraries in the state are already in there. Any school libraries are welcome to go ahead and join, and that application is also available online. Another way that you can go ahead and promote the Talking Book Service to users is through some of the things that we have on our website. If you haven't heard of it, since last October, we have been running a campaign that we call Yes to TBS. And this campaign provides all sorts of promotional materials to libraries for use in promoting it. You can get brochures, you can get posters, you can get buttons that say Yes to TBS. And then you also can go ahead and catch up here. And there's also a banner that you can put up on your website if you would like to do that. There are two short 30-second PSAs that you can go ahead and download. It just gives a real quick overview of the Talking Book Service. And there's 3 articles that were developed specifically for use in library newsletters. You can download and tailor any of those articles to include in a newsletter that would go ahead and let your readers know that the Talking Book Service is available and that you can help them sign up for it. I'm going to stop right now. I've been talking quite a bit. I see we do have a few folks here. Just a reminder, if you do have any questions about the Talking Book Service, please enter them in chat so that we can go ahead and make sure all your questions are answered. And then at the very end, we are going to have a quick review in the form of a quiz poll where we can test the knowledge that you've gotten during this presentation. Another new addition to our website that we encourage you to use is our social media tools. We have provided for you Facebook posts and Twitter tweets that you can use in your social media. These actually were developed for use from October 17 to March 18, but they're very generic in nature, and so we'll leave them posted. You are encouraged to go up there and use any of those that you think would be useful to add to your social media page. Quite often I get questions from folks talking about, well, how can I keep my staff informed about Talking Book Service? You know, they'll either come to me or they'll say they don't know what it is. And so we have put online quite a few tools that we hope will help you go ahead and keep your staff educated about the Talking Book Service. Because we recognize that if we're talking about 3% of the population, these folks aren't going to come into your library every single day. But at the same time, when they do come along, or when you see somebody who looks like they're eligible for it, it's nice to have the entire staff able to answer any questions and download an application. So first of all, we have a fact sheet. This is just a one-page fact sheet with 10 basic facts about the Talking Book Service. It can be used in a training. It can be used as a handout that people could just have on board available when they have questions about it. In addition, we have got 2 really short videos. These videos were developed by staff here at the Commission. One is an overview of the Talking Book Service, which just takes you through real quickly as kind of a physical view of the building so you can better envision what goes on here and how the materials are circulated. And then the other one is a self-paced training. So individuals can go through this in probably 20-25 minutes, answer lots of questions, get some good feedback on what they're retaining from the information. There again, that would be ideal for a staff training or for folks to use individually. And then we also have got, we've developed using GIS some maps that demonstrate by the county, not by the community, but by the county, both the number of estimated eligible Talking Book Service users. It also includes a snapshot of registered TBS users, and folks can go ahead and kind of gauge how many TBS users there currently are in their county and show you if there's room to add more to that list. Do we have any questions at all? Okay, next we're going to go ahead and we're going to go through a real quick series of questions. It's going to be in the form of a poll. So if you would go ahead and answer the questions, it is totally anonymous. And we will kind of talk through the answers and hopefully reinforce your knowledge about the Talking Book Service. So Gina, let's take it away.
Question number 1, you should be able to see in your main viewing area now.
And congratulations, everybody got it right. And nobody thought that it was ICFL staff dressed up as books, encouraging people to read. Good job. Question number 2. There again, another 100. Anybody in Idaho is eligible for the service. It's not only for older people, it's not only for blind people, and it's not only for people who have ever been eligible. There are Talking Book Service programs all throughout the United States. So if somebody is registered in Idaho and moves out of Idaho, we just automatically transfer them to the Talking Book Service in another state. And it's all taken care of. They take their equipment with them. They take their books. They get returned to us. And then the new state that they're moving into takes over with the circulation. Okay, question number 3. Okay, we're seeing just a little bit of difference of opinion on this one. So the answer, the correct answer is that books and magazines are only available in audio and braille. We do circulate our newsletter in large print, but the magazines and audio and books are only available in audio and braille. And I will warn you, as we come up to some of the rest of these, there is more than one correct answer. And our poll is only set up to accept one correct answer. So don't worry about it if you choose one and I say another one's also part of the correct answer. Okay, there again we have a split, but you're right for both of those answers. It is a database of downloadable digital books and magazines, and there again a user has to be registered for the Talking Book Service and then also register for BARD to use it. And it is a listing of all the books that are available through the Talking Book Service. So sometimes folks don't realize that we do not have physical copies of every single book that is available. And that's why that 4th response is also correct. You guys are really doing good. I can see that you're going to make a big impact on your users. I can see the 4th person's going, oh, I'm not sure which one of these is right. Well, this is a kind of a trick question because all 4 of these responses are right. They can be downloaded from BARD. User can go ahead and request a catalog that comes out every other month that contains the latest books that have been recorded and made available through the National Library Service. And they can request that catalog either as an audio catalog or as a large print catalog. Also, they can use our online catalog, which allows them not only to see what we have, but to request them online or also to have a direct link back to BARD again. And finally, when they register, the fourth page is a profile that allows each one of the applicants to go ahead and tell us the sorts of genres they like to read. They can indicate they like specific authors, and then they also can go ahead and indicate any types of books that they don't like. So for example, if they don't want strong language, if they don't want sexual content, and they don't want violence, they can choose any one of those. And each one of the books is coded if they contain any of that kind of content. So if somebody doesn't want to have a lot of strong language, the book will not be sent to them. Of course, the tricky part of this is one person's strong language is another person's common usage. So sometimes my favorite story is the applicant who said, oh, I don't want to have any sexual content in my books. Please send me Danielle Steele. So it's sometimes open. Sometimes people will get back to us and say, I'm not getting the sorts of books I want, and we have to go ahead and change that. But when they do fill in that profile, I call it the Netflix model before Netflix thought of it. Every time a book is returned, our system goes back out and says, okay, this person likes this author, has not read this book, and assigns it to them. That's how we can keep the materials coming and going so quickly. Okay, let's go on to number 6 then. Okay, again, everybody's right on target. All they have to do is complete a registration form. They can call us and we'll send it to them. You can go ahead and give it to them. They can get it from their doctor. And it's really important for them to realize that certification is not a big issue. Sometimes people think, oh, you know, I have to prove in some way that I'm eligible for it. If you can see that they obviously cannot see or that they're physically disabled in some ways, you can go ahead and certify it. Okay, a little difference of opinion here, and this is another one that actually had 3 responses. If they're blind or physically impaired, if they're visually or physically impaired, or if they are reading disabled. All of those are included as making them eligible. The fourth one I put in there because quite often people will say, oh, I know somebody who's never been able to learn to read. Can they use your service? Unfortunately, unless they have one of these physical conditions, so for example, they can be certified as being reading disabled because they're dyslexic, just because they never learned to read is not one of the eligibility criteria for this program. Okay, everybody said that they have the following of blind or visually impaired. That certainly is, okay, now we've got somebody else who's going, oh, just a minute, I'm catching on here. You're right. Have we got 4 people responding? No, not right now. Oh, I thought all 4 of them were up there. Is the 4th person undetermined as to what it is? Well, since there are 2 correct responses here, I will go ahead and say that, first of all, if you are blind or visually impaired, you certainly, what number are we on here?
Oh, what?
something happened.
Just a second, folks. Your questions ran away. They shall return.
Ooh.
Okay, so this is library staff can certify users. A library staff member can certify anybody who is blind or visually impaired or physically impaired. So that means that if they are legally blind, if they can't see to read large print or smaller, so if they have been using your large print collection and they can no longer read that size print, they're eligible, or if they have a physical disability, which means they cannot hold a book or turn the pages. So that means that the fourth response there, that they cannot certify anybody, is incorrect. You can certify folks that are blind, legally blind, or physically impaired. And when we're talking about physically impaired, that specifically means that they cannot hold a book or turn the pages. So if somebody comes in and they're in a wheelchair, but they have the use of their hands, they would not be eligible for the program. Any questions about that? Gina has a question.
Sue, what if it's a temporary situation? For example, I know somebody who had a terrible fall and they broke both of their arms, which is traumatic on its own, but then could no longer hold a book, at least for it was a period of time. They had about a few months, like 3 to 6 months, where they couldn't do that. Can they be a temporary customer of TBS?
Yes, they can. As I said earlier, folks who are just temporarily, you've had eye surgery, you've broken both your arms, you can go ahead and use the service until you no longer have that eligibility certification. And there again, this is all done in good faith. If you go ahead and certify that somebody is eligible, we're not going to come back and say, show us why you signed this. Once somebody is using the service, even if it's a temporary one, we're not going to go back in 3 months and go, let me see your arms, are they still broken? It's just once they get certified, we hope that they're going to go ahead and abide by the rules. So this next question specifically talks to you staff members and how you can certify. And I know that sometimes staff are very nervous about this, thinking that in some way they're going to goof it up. But we have faith, as all 4 of you know, that you can just go, if you can see that they're unable to read it for any reason, you can just go ahead and sign the application. You can always refer them to the Talking Book Service, but when somebody's interested in the service, we have found that the quicker you can follow through with them and get them enrolled, the more likely they are to actually use the service. Quite often people will say, well, I'll take this application home and talk to my daughter about it, or I'll take it to my eye doctor, and somehow it gets set aside and they never quite get around to getting it done. So if you can go ahead and certify it, we would appreciate that. The thing showing up in chat, that's the second one that they've done typing but hasn't shown up. I just saw that Jane was typing, said she was typing. Oh, okay. Again, 100% of you said that one of the reasons that we want you to help publicize it is they're users. Thank you for not saying that we're too lazy to do so. We do try to promote as much as we can. However, it's also important to remember that another reason is that users know you and they trust you, and they know that if you say to them, I think you'd like this program, it's totally free, they're not going to come back and try to scam you, they're much more likely to rely on that information. We quite often, when we go out to health fairs and other promotions, people kind of look at us kind of suspiciously. I say, saying I'm from the state and I'm here to help you isn't always a good way to get people involved in the program. So, sometimes they'll take the application and say, well, I've got to take it home and think about it. But if they're working with their library staff member, they know you're giving them accurate information. And then also, we know that you quite often do outreach into your communities. We know that you go out and work with various organizations. And there again, you can communicate with them much more efficiently and effectively. We can send letters, we can send brochures, but actually seeing somebody from the local library come and say to them, hey, are you aware of this service? We know some of your users might be eligible for it, is a great way. And speaking of that, we right now are in the process of, we're working with the Office on Aging, and we will be sending brochures about the Talking Book Service to all the nutrition sites, the senior citizens meal sites in the state by the end of the month. And included in that letter, we are including the contacts at their local public libraries and asking them if they have questions to contact you. So we would really appreciate it. We did send an email out a couple weeks ago letting you know that this is underway. And if you do get any questions or any feedback, please do work with the organization because they work with seniors, and so we know that there's a lot of eligible people there, and they may not know as much about the program as you do. So we appreciate you working with them. If you have an opportunity to go out and actually do a face-to-face either with the meal site supervisor or a presentation to the seniors as they're eating lunch, I think that would go a long way towards getting the news about the Talking Book Service out there. And this next one is a question that people often have questions about too. But it doesn't look like you guys do. And the reason I said people have questions about it is if somebody is registered for the Talking Book Service, all their materials from the Talking Book Service go free postage for the blind and visually impaired. However, it's important to know, especially those of you who have large print collections, if somebody is homebound and being visually impaired is a big isolator. Quite often you can no longer drive, and so you tend to be more likely to be homebound. But if you have somebody who cannot read large print and cannot get to the library, you can go ahead and send them their materials free postage for the blind. If they're eligible for the Talking Book Service, they're eligible for this service. They do not have to be registered for the Talking Book Service. So if it's somebody who doesn't want to use the Talking Book Service, quite often people they hold on to the ability to read using their eyes as long as possible. You can go ahead and send them the books back and forth through the mail. However, remember they have to be eligible for the Talking Book Service. It can't just be somebody like me who prefers to read large print because it's easier on my eyes. They have to actually be visually impaired and unable to read smaller than large print. I think we can go on to the last one. Okay, once again, you hit the nail right on the head. Everything that goes out to our users goes free postage for the blind. So we can send them audio books and magazines, the audio player, the postage to receive and return all their materials. So anything that it has to do with the Talking Book Service is free, including the toll-free number where they can call here during regular business hours and have questions answered about the service. So, how'd you do? As I look at it, it looks like most of you were, I'd say, at least 90% of the way there. But remember, if you ever do have any questions, you can go ahead and contact me here at the commission. There's the 800 number, there's my email address, and also there's a lot of information about the service, including links to our catalog, links to BARD, links to applications, and links to all those promotional and educational materials for your staff. The website link is right there. And I certainly hope this information has been helpful for you and that you will be able to go ahead and use it. Remember, those social media posts are going to stay up there. You could probably use them for another year if you'd like. Do we have any questions that anybody has before we sign off for the day? And Gina, this is being recorded, correct?
Yes, it is. This whole our whole presentation today was recorded, and you will all receive a link after we get that processed, along with a request for your evaluation input.
Again, thank you very much. I hope to hear back from you. And also, if you get any feedback from users about the Talking Book service, positive or negative, we'd love to hear from it, because sometimes there again, people will tell you, well, I'm not getting the kind of books I like, but they won't call us. So if you get any feedback, and also if you get any stories about how this service affects people's lives. We got a story recently from Mountain Home about a user, when they heard about the Talking Book service, actually broke down and cried. They were so excited to find out that even though macular degeneration was taking their sight, they could continue to read. So feel free to share those with us. And everybody have a good Monday, and talk to you soon.
So, Sue, thank you for presenting today on about the Talking Book service. I know I learned some additional information. And we have an additional comment in the chat. And about sharing this program, Stephanie is going to be sharing this program with her seniors group on Thursday. And it sounds like a great place to share this new information. Showing on the screen now is information about our Info to Go session planned for next month, April 16th. We're going to learn about protecting children in the library. We have representatives from Idaho's Health and Welfare that are going to talk about mandatory reporting requirements and safe spaces when you see children in public places, particularly in our libraries and schools. So you can register for that now on the libraries.idaho.gov Info to Go website. And if you have questions about it or want to see a link to recordings and archives of previous Info to Go sessions, just go to that same website and you'll see all of the links there. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.